I believe. Hello, Mitchell. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Awesome. Please, for the rest of the viewers, introduce yourself and where you're from.
I'm Mitchell Sellers. I'm from the Des Moines, Iowa area.
Awesome. Welcome. I know you and I met several years ago, right? I think in Denver, correct? I think that's right.
It was Denver, or I don't know. I've lost track at this point. Way too many events.
We're going to start off with a fun question.
Okay.
So if you could compare yourself with any animal, which would it be and why?
That was not on the list of questions.
It absolutely was on that list.
Yeah. I don't know. That is not a question I have ever thought of. I don't have a great answer.
Understood. Well, you could share perhaps what your hobby is that you and I just chatted about.
Well, I think most people have figured this out eventually. Pictures behind me, airplane models over here. I love flying airplanes. So a little bummed with all of the events being canceled and not being able to use the airplane much. No reason, no places.
Agreed. So perhaps a bird or something like that.
We'll feel more at home that way, I think. Yeah.
So let's start off with, why are you running for the .NET Foundation board?
So I'm running for the .NET Foundation board because, I'm the leader of, a large .NET based content management system, DNN, that is a member of the .NET Foundation. And as part of that, I've seen the benefits that come with the .NET Foundation and how the .NET Foundation can help these open source projects succeed, as well as the other initiatives, with speaker support and everything else. But at the same time, it's not been easy as a project maintainer, where I think there's some areas that the .NET Foundation can improve the relationship with the various open source projects, with the speakers and all of these other initiatives to make life a little bit easier, to further elevate those projects to be more sustainable, have a better future, and getting on the board to be able to help shape and drive some of that mission. I think it's the most effective way that I can help to improve what the .NET Foundation does and all of the projects that are members of it.
Love it. So what is your background with the .NET Foundation so far?
So far, I'm a member of the .NET Foundation, since basically as soon as they opened up membership for everyone. And then I am the technology group leader for the .NET Nuke open source project, .NET based CMS. For those that don't know, it's been around for almost 20 years, but we've been really open source and really in charge from a community perspective for about 3 years. And part of that transition was instrumental in becoming part of the .NET Foundation. And without the support of the .NET Foundation, we would not be able to do what we've done thus far.
Nice. So what experience do you have specifically that lends itself to be on the board?
So I have experience on other boards of directors, serving with groups that are kind of similar to the way that the .NET Foundation is put together. So having some experience working with larger organizations in nonprofit or other type of scenarios, I think I have the board level experience makes me a little bit more aware of the process and the challenges. Volunteer boards, we're not being compensated for this kind of thing. Motivation becomes really hard, and personal responsibility is really key. So if all of the board members are participating and those board members are dedicated to it, you can be effective, but you also have to be respectful and understand how to work in those relationships, especially with disconnected scenarios as well. So I think that background in other organizations will definitely lend well to cooperating with the board, combined then with my experience as a member.
Very nice. So you've already kind of talked a little bit about your contributions, right, in the community. But what is the one thing that you think the .NET Foundation can grow and improve with, if you had to pick one thing?
Long-term integrity and support for projects. So they do great. We do a great job of getting the projects in and providing them some of that low level support and everything. But there's a lot more, right, in elevating the standards. About, I guess I can't remember exactly the timeline, but there was this maturity model, right, that was pitched at one point in time and kind of dissipated a little bit. But a concept like a maturity model to be able to kind of vet and guide a project. How do you become a great open source project, right? How do you sustain beyond? I think that's the area that the .NET Foundation on the open source side, right? So one big thing that could be accomplished.
Oh, absolutely. So you're talking more about coming up with more of a set of standards that people who are beginning could follow.
So yeah, setting standards. So for example, we've built our own processes, for example, on how we handle security vulnerabilities and how we communicate those. We are doing our own builds, but we're not necessarily doing all of the things that we should be doing with builds, right? Repeatable builds and signing our assemblies and some of those kinds of things, or signing our NuGet packages, right? So I think there's a place where, a level of guidance for these projects of like, hey, if you're utilizing this distribution method, we need to do these things. If you're using this process, right, you need your builds to be repeatable or to be tagged, and just setting some of those things so that people don't have to figure it out on their own as much. And then from the other side, right, it builds confidence in those projects for those that are adopting, right? Because if we're following a best practice that was published or the recommendations of a standard, now we've added more credence and value, right, to our project as a whole.
Do you have a suggestion, or have you seen something that would work in a way that the .NET community can help encourage diversity more?
The biggest thing for me with diversity and inclusion, which is, I believe, absolutely imperative in our industry, because it is a real problem, standards of conduct and published pathways to contribute, I think, are the biggest ways that you can help from a project perspective. Having codes of conduct are something that I've stressed in all of the open source projects that I've been part of. I hate having to fall back to, a code of conduct, but by putting something out there that you are inclusive, you have a set of rules, right, to be able to guide yourselves by. When something comes up that isn't appropriate, you have a way to remediate that situation. Because if we are honest and open that we want to allow others, that becomes a good way in. Now, from there, right, a lot of it comes out to outreach and being able to attract the people. That is an area that, I'm still learning and growing in terms of the better ways to be able to do it. But it comes down to the attitudes, right, of when you do get the new contributor. Maybe you get something that comes in from somebody that's brand new to your project, and you know what, maybe they don't follow your process. Maybe they don't give you all of the bug reports, or maybe they even report something that you already knew and they just couldn't find it in GitHub issues. If you start out by being inclusive and simply helping guide them around that pathway, I think that helps. If you welcome everybody with open arms, doesn't matter what your background is, what your gender is, your religion, it doesn't matter, right? We're all contributing towards a project. If we run our project with that same mindset, some of it will happen naturally.
That's great. So where can people find you on Twitter?
Twitter, I am Mitchel Sellers. Mitchel with one L, most importantly. I don't believe there's anybody with two L's.
Mitchel with one L. Got it. Yep. Thank you so much for being willing to tell us how you would make things better for the .NET Foundation, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you guys having me. And, it's a great pool of candidates, and excited to see how things go.
Thank you guys for having me. And I hope that you will vote when it comes time to vote for your favorite .NET Foundation candidate.